I'm not going to concede to voting for Gavin Newsom 2 years out of the gate. Like, it's ridiculous. Why is the Democratic Party unfavorability right now at 64% and only growing? Why? This entire thing started with this post. I was on I've Had It with my friend, Ms. Welch, who presented the question, would you vote for Gavin Newsom or J.D. Vance for president? Gavin Newsom is currently pushing against Ro Khanna in the state that I'm in for a billionaire's tax. And these motherfuckers are like, no, you have to vote for the guy who is anti-billionaires tax and you have to like it. It's like, shut the fuck up. No, I'm not going to do that. There's like a multitude of different ideologies at play here. There are the vote blue no matter who, harm reductionist postures, people being like, I'm trans, people being like, Democrats are going to protect the undocumented, Democrats are going to protect the trans people. And it's like, Democrats have literally written you out of existence. Okay, they have. Yes, it's better overall under Democratic governance, Democratic leadership to be a trans person than a trans person under a Republican leadership where you like genuinely have to leave your state. Same with just being a woman in general, living in a red state. But this kind of like, oh, sweetie, you don't care about my marginalized identity ass bullshit, especially to someone like myself, who, regardless of my, white cishet background, I've never shied away from my advocacy for trans people and all marginalized people. You're an idiot, and it doesn't work, and it's annoying, and all you're doing is just being like, you're not moral for me. Okay, well, good luck. Good luck with a J.D. Vance presidency. We can't be doing this same old business as usual politics. It's very clear. It's clear to the voters, too, and that's ironically what I keep trying to explain. But these guys who are either chorus backed or whatever, I don't know what the this guy's deal is, but there's so many of these dipshits who mobilize against the left harder than they mobilize against the right, by the way. They're all up in arms right now on Twitter. They're all up in arms. Let's have the conversation now, 2 years out, before having the conversation right on the fucking dial. I'm willing to have that conversation. I know other people are not. I know other people are too focused on some other shit, but it is seemingly a chorus. Some of these guys are straight up like, in the pedophile sex cult. Like this one is literally in the pedophile sex cult of destiny. I know for a fact, right? I've seen this guy before. Like all they do is talk about how I am not really a Democrat. I am not a part of the Democratic Party. Whether you like it or not, we're in it together, big dog. If you hate the Republicans, which I don't think you do, let's be real, then you need to shut the up and listen to what we're saying. I think it needs to be pointed out that Hutch's whole goal of pushing the HasanAbi actually hates the Dem party is to isolate you from influencing anything the Dems do to put himself in a position to be paid by the Dems. Yeah, but it's not going to work because I still talk to the Democrats. You want to know why? Because adult Democrats understand that there is a massive audience of voters here. And not only is there a massive audience of voters here, but also we're right. Like our advocacy is correct. It's not just like a difference in opinion here. Like there are a lot of people who are mad. Yeah, I'm not a party loyalist at all. The only thing I care about is advancing an agenda that helps the working class. That's it. An agenda that will destroy the Republican Party. I hate the Republican Party. I don't want to concede to the Republicans on policy. I don't like the closeness of a lot of establishment Dems to the Republicans. I don't understand. I mean, I do understand it to a certain degree, but it's just like unimaginably frustrating to have to deal with this. But I guess we have to deal with it. We have to push back on this stuff. And we have to communicate to these people that like their way is dead. What did you say? You're too important to be having a conversation with these course people? No, I need to do a little bit of cleanup here. I think you guys don't understand, okay? There needs to be a little bit of pushback here because these guys do speak directly to the consultant class. That's why Trey Easton of the Searchlight Institute joined it on the pylon. Can we just trust my judgment here every now and then? Can we have a fraction of confidence when I talk about certain things? There's a good reason for it. Like I understand that there is more important things happening in the world, but like, can we every now and then realize that there is a concerted effort here that if we don't push back against right now, it will only grow in momentum, in size? Some of you didn't trust me on the Israel stuff and you understood that I was right. Some of you stayed behind. Some of you left. Now you're back. Okay, just please trust me here. The reason why I'm bringing this up at this very moment is because it's going to reach a boiling point. it is already the same exact back and forth, the same exact combative institutional defense of third way neoliberalism that has been the cancerous entity that is the beating heart of the Democratic Party. And they're going to push it over and over again. That much is clear. A lot of these people who have positioned themselves as being like Democratic content creators on Twitter, which also then turn into like TikTok rants as well, these guys absolutely are doing it already. They're doing it early on, and I appreciate that they're doing it early on. I'm saying it right now. I'll talk to Brian Tyler Cohen. I'll talk to the Midas Touch guys. I'll talk to any of these dudes who want to understand what my position is, what my worldview is. If they want to come and debate me on it, we can do that anytime, any place. I'm sick and tired of this bullshit. We need to have a normal conversation about it, and we need to nip this shit in the bud, because I know for a fact that the large majorities of these influencers will toe the party line. As long as the party is captured by the left flank that are significantly better candidates with a significantly better national posture than the establishment Democrats do currently, which is precisely the reason why they have a historic unpopularity in this moment, these guys will follow along. They don't have like an ideological commitment. They're at most... The sex cult freaks, their ideological commitment revolves around defending the interests of their freak ass pedophilic Twitch streamer, or not Twitch streamer. He's not on Twitch. Sorry, kick streamer. Bro, what is the point in chatting in human streams like this? Almost like this is done to limit the size while championing democracy. Shut the fuck up. If you're an ultra, if you're an anti-electoralist, this conversation is not for you. See yourself out of it. Either be a good cadre and push back on this or shut the fuck up. Okay, but I don't want to hear your morally righteous position as a ultra that has been addressed a million times over by even Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. Ultras, pile on the shitlibs. Okay, stop yelling at me. I'm tired of it. It's a ideological battle taking place here where these guys have no real staying power in mass politics, where most liberals, most self-identifying liberals want more from their party, want more from their elected representatives, but they are speaking to the consultants that are desperately looking for some kind of momentum. They can't have that real momentum in the real world, so they're trying to build that momentum on Twitter and on TikTok. This entire thing started with this post. I was on I've Had It with my friend, Ms. Welch, who presented the question, would you vote for Gavin Newsom or JD Vance for president? But I basically said, it's out of my hands at that point. I have no control over this. I think it's over at that point, which is true. If it's a matchup, JD Vance versus Gavin Newsom matchup, but here, let's take a look at the clip. Let's take a look at how they have presented this, and we will talk about like what's going on right now.
Disappointed in
Who
Gavin
do you vote
Newsom.
for, JD Vance or Gavin Newsom?
Well, I'd have to vote for Gavin Newsom,
Me
of course,
too.
100%.
I wouldn't blink. What about you, Hasan?
I'd probably vote third party.
You would?
Oh, yeah. I mean, at that point, it doesn't even matter. Like, because my policy on this is the same as like my refusal to endorse Kamala Harris. The reason why I did not endorse Kamala Harris was because she did things that were not only unproductive, but also unconscionable. And I still stand on that. I still talk about it all the time because people constantly bring it up. They're like, you didn't sufficiently like promote Kamala Harris. You're the reason why she lost. And I'm like, I am incapable. There is no singular force in this country that is capable of making or breaking an election. And if that was real, then it is the most idiotic thing not to listen to my demands. But everybody knows that that's not real, right? Mm-hmm. If I had this singular force to be able to make Kamala Harris the president, then Kamala Harris should be coming to me every day and being like, let me do a collab with you, please.
Totally.
Right? That's not the case, of course. And they know it. That's why they didn't do it. But the campaigns are always responsible for whether or not they are able to win the crowds, win the population over, and you know, combat against the couch. Not necessarily even against the Republican Party, but usually you're fighting against the couch, people who just don't go out and vote. And for me, the way I see it is if the Democratic establishment makes this decision one more time, just as they did with Hillary Clinton, just as they did with Kamala Harris, and in some ways, just as they did with Joe Biden as well, which led to Trump too, then they just don't care. And there's not much I can do.
Let me tell you something. I agree with everything you say, but as a person who lived in a red state for 50 years, I would crawl through 10 feet of concrete.
Can I just say that this isn't about you not being right in your analysis? It's about trying to damage your reputation with normie Dems who agree with you on policy but are not sure who can beat Republicans, which is their number one goal. They are trying to keep the left from power by saying we don't actually want to beat the right. No, exactly. You're 100% right. And it's kind of funny that it's an echo chamber of Democratic Party consultants who also want that message to be out there, but they can't overcome the needs of the masses. Because as someone who goes out there, as someone who's at those protests, I see the Barbaras and I see the Debras and I see the people that have had their minds changed. I see the people that look at Bernie Sanders and go, that's our guy. We want someone like him. We know that Bernie-crat, the Bernie-crat wing of the Democratic Party is the real electability argument. Those are the real guys that will not only push for the change that is necessary, but that argumentation, that policy technique is what is viable, what is actually viable. So these people are just in a echo chamber talking to one another, and they're trying to create friction. I don't care overall. They think like they got me. They think they got me. That's another one of these that's another thing that really frustrates me when they're like, "Ha, we got you. You outed yourself. You're not a real Democrat." It's like, "Yeah, bitch, I'm not. I'm not a fucking real Democrat. I'm not a party loyalist. I care about policy and I care about beating the Republicans. If there was a viable third party, I don't give a what it's called, and they were more in line with my worldview, viable being the key word, I would be voting for them. If we had a parliamentary structure and there was a viable third party, you think I'd be voting for the Democrats? No. Suck my dick. I don't give a shit about the Democratic Party beyond their capability of beating the Republicans, because I do not want the reactionary forces to win in this country. I fight back against it every single day of the goddamn week. I'm willing to work with liberals in line with that agenda. But if liberals are trying to actively fight against me rather than the file protection squad that is the current Republican Party, they're not with it. They're not with the cause. These people don't understand that, though. They think like, no, it's team sports. It's D versus R. This is it. All I'm saying is that most people are like Jen. Most people are like Jen, where they're like, I will vote for whoever, but I also recognize that the left position, especially in the primary structure, is the popular position.
Vote for Gavin Newsom, even though I think he's duplicitous, a hypocrite, a thirst trap, hungry for power, all of the things that you say, and harms the Democratic Party and sets the psychological soil to be more prey to fascism. All of that I agree with. But there are so many young, queer, Black.
No, do you live in California? Is that context not relevant in this conversation? No, that's cop-out. That's a cop-out. Me living in California is a cop-out. I have a massive audience. They don't just live in California. Many of them are going to vote blue no matter who, regardless. I'm not going to like urge them not to vote blue no matter who, regardless, but I will never tell them to do that in the primary. And I will, depending on the candidate and depending on their platform, I will either choose to endorse or choose to not endorse. Having said that, I will never endorse a Republican. I will never tell people to go and vote for a Republican. I will always push back against the Republican agenda. You're all adults. You can make up your own mind. But I think it's a cop-out to just be like, oh, you're living in California, so it doesn't matter. No, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. Because my commentary is not just staying in the state of California. My commentary expands beyond the state of California. So there is truth to what the libs say when they start around and go, oh, Hasan, you command a massive audience. Like, why the won't you get in the tank for Kamala Harris in the same way that I did for Hillary Rodham Clinton, in the same way that I did for Joe Biden? And yet, even back then, they would yell and say, we weren't sufficiently pro Joe Biden. We weren't sufficiently pro Hillary Rodham Clinton, that the Bernie bros somehow cooked the books. Even though many of those people have now realized Bernie was right. Bernie would have been the candidate to beat Donald Trump in 2016. We wouldn't have had all this heartache. And yet they still can't expand on that concept. They still can't comprehend. In any case, yeah, it's almost reflexive for Democrats on here to blame professional lefties for every time the party fails. But where the party has been atrophying votes is among workers who don't follow politics closely and have vaguely moderate politics. Go back to Blue Sky. If you think moderates where I live will vote for Gavin Newsom, you can't handle reality. There is truth to this as well. And by the way, moderate politics or vaguely moderate politics doesn't even mean that they would like hate someone like Zoran Mamdani or hate someone like Bernie Sanders. That's the irony here. A lot of people think that these people are making decisions on ideology, ideological goals, policy goals. They're not. That's the reason why people think Bernie Sanders, Republicans think Bernie Sanders is more of a centrist than Kamala Harris is. It's just about who likes. It's just about which politician you like. The Twitter conversation is disconnected from the real world. Moderates are not lining up to vote for Mr. French Laundry. He's an Oppo goldmine, has nothing to do with lefties, who will mostly vote for him. My point is Hasan doesn't matter. Newsom is a toxic candidate for reasons irrelevant to him. Yes, anyone and everyone that hyper-focuses on my assessment here of Gavin Newsom, that's making that hypothetical conversation, vote blue no matter who conversation, run into the ground, does not realize that they have lost it. Hasan Piker doesn't care about marginalized communities. The guys in this picture. Yeah, the guy who posted this shit literally has Bill Clinton in his profile photo. He's like double invested in pedophilia. It's crazy to me. I went to college with a girl you were fighting on the timeline. Stopped talking to her when she took an internship at the Koch Foundation. Yeah, so many of these people are operatives. Here, I'll give you a great example. Okay, with Gavin Newsom. What would it take for me to actually vote for Gavin Newsom? Because it's not like I'm never going to vote for Gavin Newsom. But if he turned around and was like, I'm going to stick it to the Republicans regardless. I'm going to actually punish the Republicans that have actually engaged in corruption. If he earnestly changed his policies on homelessness instead of combating homelessness as a aberration that must be forcibly excised, sometimes directly by his own hand. Instead, he actually had a robust housing policy that combated the reasons as to why homelessness exists and persists. If he actually had not vetoed Medicare for all in his own state, because there's good things about Gavin Newsom that I have also openly revealed. He is far better than the National Democratic Party when it comes to prison reform. I know that there's a lot of ultras in here that will get mad at me for saying that, but I grade politicians on a curve. Honest question, why does the Dem consultant sphere think you're a party loyalist circa 2023? They don't. They know I'm not a party loyalist. They're just mad that the Democrats actually talk to me rather than them. That's what this is all about. They're chirping because the Democrats talk to me instead of their favorite file. That's literally half of the reason why this became a point of contention. Because this dip and many of the other people that are chirping right now are all major Sex Pestini fans. They're like, why won't the Democrats actually align with my favorite N-word saying?
At Destiny, you said nigga like 1 month ago.
I mean, he was reading it still.
Incredibly edgy.
What, if you just because you molest a child doesn't make you a pedophile. That's not.
Yes, it does. Yes, it.
White supremacist adjacent content creator who was procuring child sexual abuse material. Why won't they talk to him instead? That's literally all this is. That's all this is. I let the left flank criticism wash over me because I think it's bad posture and bad politics and a betrayal of what I believe in. If I were to constantly position myself as the reasonable lefty, look at these dumbass lefties. Come on, libs, love me, please. Liberals, love me. I'm your guy. I'm the actual, moderate leftist. The leftist with a smile. Trust me. Look at how much I hate these other leftists to my left flank. I don't do that. You want to know why I don't do that? Because it's bitch shit. Okay. Because the left in this country have no real power. So all those guys, whether it be Bad Empanada, whether it be Squirrel, or whether it be like random small communist content creators are like, oh, well, Hasan is problematic for this reason or that reason. He's a sheepdog for the Democratic Party. I don't care. Yeah, go ahead. Whatever. I'm always going to punch up. I'm not going to punch down. I got smoke for every single one of these motherfuckers today because it all comes back to this. The Democratic Party favorability. They don't want to answer this question. Why is the Democratic Party unfavorability right now at 64% and only growing? Why? Donald Trump is the president. Donald Trump is a pedophile, allegedly. Donald Trump is defending pedophiles, not allegedly. We know he's defending pedophiles. Donald Trump has a neo-Nazi brigade that is unaccountable, that is killing Americans in the suburbs. Donald Trump has not fixed the economy. Donald Trump is incredibly unpopular, and yet the Democrats' unpopularity has only grown in that time frame. One must ask the question, why? Why are the Democrats historically unpopular at a time like this? They have no answer for this question. I know why. It's because the Democrats are not fighting back sufficiently against the Republican Party's agenda. That's it. They're known as the do-nothing Dems. They're known as the no-backbone Dems. They're known as the Democratic Party that has left its own population behind, its own voters behind, the marginalized identities that Democrats seemingly only remember to talk about when it comes down to demanding that people vote unconditionally for vote blue no matter who people. Those marginalized identities have been left behind by the Democratic Party. Okay, that's it. The most popular Dems in the country, across the board popularity, stem from the more radical Democrats, the Bernie Sanders of the world, AOCs of the world, Zoran Mamdani. Why are they so popular? Why are they carrying the Democratic Party's brand currently? The reason why they're carrying the Democratic Party's brand currently is because they're fighters. They have loyalty. They have the base. The base wants more people like that. This position is unironically reactionary. They're forcing you to accept a false binary with the premise of Gavin versus Donald, which would force you to support the better one if you're rational. We have to show how irrational it is to force people in the false binary again, which is the reason why Harris lost. We can and should ask for something better than Gavin if we want to fix the conditions that led to Trump. Exactly. That is exactly my point, which is part of the reason why I responded with libs don't care about losing to Trump. Libs who don't care about losing to Trump now want you to obey in advance to their hypothetical establishment candidate while there isn't even a guarantee there will be an election 2 years from now, using marginalized people as a cudgel as Gavin threw trans people under the bus. Not only that, but I also responded to him directly over here as well, where I said, you're in a sex cult led by a pedophile streamer, Lamau. The day he goes Republican, you will too. You didn't care when he boosted Sam Hyde, Nick Fuentes, or Lauren Southern. Don't talk to me about obeying in advance. Vote blue no matter who got us in this mess. To which he had the silliest response. How many Groiper accounts have you retweeted and signal boosted? Brother, what are you talking about? Your favorite content creator's mouth is on top of a fucking neo-Nazi's penis. What do you mean? You retweeted Groipers. Yeah, this guy is a D-writer for Sex Pestiny. Sex Pestiny is basically a Groiper that votes Democrat, but these guys literally think that's the most viable alternative. You know what I mean? They are so internet brained. They think like white guy that is consistently trying to be edgy and consistently saying slurs is the best, most viable Democrat of all time. No, man, that politics of that sort is repulsive to the average person.
Good faith criticism here from a Hasan and Destiny fan. Why say the N-word? Isn't that at least horrible optics? Because it's conditioning the audience. Because I think it's a stupid thing that people obsess over and nobody gives a fuck. And if you think it's a huge deal, I'd rather excise you from my community now than have you try to like woke scold me on some retarded shit down the road. I'd rather just not have those fans. And then the current fans I have will be molded in the shape of me, the master N-word wielder.
He doesn't give a about people of color. He doesn't give a about trans.
Oh, shut up, white boy. Suck my dick, white boy. You didn't give a shit about Gaza, okay? And Kamala Harris lost. And when Kamala Harris lost to Donald Trump again, Donald Trump actually did unlimited violence to these marginalized identities. I hate these motherfuckers, man. They wear black and brown people like a shield. It's so dumb. The only time these motherfuckers go, we shouldn't do identity politics. We shouldn't do identity politics. And then they immediately deploy it to their left flank. We know what's up at this point. We know what's up. There is a lot of enmity for the Democrats right now. And the reason for why there's a lot of enmity for the Democrats right now, as I keep repeating over and over again, 64% disapproval, 33.9% approval. The reason why this exists is because the Democrats are not doing it. They're not doing it. They're not leaning in to the demands of the base. They're not even doing like the hashtag resistance liberalism of 2016. Is this person confirmed a deorbiter? Yes. He is a part of the Desbullah brigades or whatever. Yeah. I don't know if you saw or covered it, but that account is a Desbullah mod. For your information, you're retweeting a moderator of Dan Stoltman's gang stalking Nazi community trying to raise awareness since these bad faith fascists are trying to infiltrate discourse and poison the well against anybody that's pro-Palestine, pro-universal healthcare. Yeah. Here it is. He's one of the mods of the Desbullah brigades. This is the type of shit they post over there. They're literally 4chan groipers, but liberal and pro-Israel. These people don't understand. It's basically a neo-Nazi community, you know? Yeah, get them out. Kick Islam out of America. This is the type of shit that they're posting on there. Deport the brother. Average octopi IQ is 73. What is octopi? I don't even know what that means. Yeah, sand N-word. Total sand N-word death. Like, this is the type of shit these guys are posting in that community, and then they try to act like they're actually woke or progressive or liberal in any capacity. Ironically enough, these are the infiltrators. These are the infiltrators. This is Destiny's community. And there are so many dumb out there who get deluded into thinking, either because they're going to get an $8,000 bag here. So many dumb out there who think these guys actually are on their side. Substance. This is what I meant when I said it's useless trying to reach these people, even knowing that a Vance presidency will be a continuation of the current admin. He still wouldn't vote blue no matter who. These people are just as bad as most diehard maggots. Anyway, I said this guy, reposts all this racist shit. He's a racist. Obviously, he is an insane person, and none of them actually have any interest in like helping defeat the Republicans at all. They're just doing their own petty personal grievance politics.
I think Hasan is like an enemy of the country. I think he's like Jackson Hinkle territory to me, like worse than Fuentes right now. I cannot believe that you would do a propaganda trip to China.
Yeah, this is like the type of shit he posts. Is there somebody you forgot to ask? Wear shirt that says kill all landlords. His own mother was a landlord. Calls Hila a terrorist for completing mandatory conscription. Dodge mandatory military service in Turkey. Like, their only politics is literally Hasan. Their only politics is like Hasan. They have no real interest in changing this country. They have no real interest in combating the Republicans. Anyway, so he followed up on this and said, for those of you wondering why some of us on the left are so opposed to allowing political arsonists like Hasan and his ilk into the tent, the replies on this thread agreeing with Hasan is a perfect explanation as to why we think that. They'd rather hand this country over to people like J.D. Vance and Peter Thiel, whose only goal is to take our democratic system out back behind the barn and put down rather than vote for a Democrat who doesn't 100% align with their beliefs. This person is not on the left. He's lying to people. The reason people like Hasan and his fans think that way is because the majority of them are rich and white, thus unaffected by the disastrous policies enacted by the GOP. Boom, hit the identity politics line. Once again, guy who has been calling me a Islamist, terrorist, radical fundamentalist for maintaining the majority position on Israel is turning around and being like, he's a white guy. He's a white guy. He doesn't care. He's an out-of-touch white guy. Gavin Newsom hasn't won the primary yet, okay? And I don't think he will. And even if he was, he would be one of the few individuals who could lose the J.D. Vance. A lot of liberals don't understand this. They are still agitating for third-way neoliberalism when it's died already. Yeah. Oh. If you want to understand, like, the most exhaustive version of this vote, blue no matter who, is this. Hutch would vote for Jeffrey Epstein.
Jeffrey Epstein, yes or no, Hutch?
I do. Yeah. But if he had a D next to his name and he was running for a Texas Senate
oh my God.
I would probably vote for him. I'm just saying.
That'd be a tough one.
Wild.
Not kidding.
You're just gonna let that one
not
go.
a joke. Not a joke.
Wow.
You condemn Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, damn, bro. They're even saying you're not hot. I know, I saw that. Trey Easton, who should always be asked why he refused to put who he worked for in office. It's John Fetterman. This is one of the John Fetterman handlers. He's neither hot nor cool. His politics are just hate the Democrats. We should all stop listening to him. This is it. This is the main point. These guys want desperately for the National Democratic Party to not move away from them. At least this person gets paid by the Democrats, right? He's a consultant. Many of these other dipshits that are doing the Hasan shit are only doing it because they're fans of a different content creator. They are absolutely terrified. These centrists are absolutely terrified that there is going to be a wave of candidates. There is going to be a wave of left flank candidates that come out of this midterm battle. And they are literally shitting bricks right now because the primaries are upon us and they are terrified of that. A bunch of these people doing this exact thing in the comments. This would be the fourth election of doing the same shit that keeps netting us worse and worse conditions, and they haven't learned a thing. Truly, medieval serfs have more independence of thought than this. Exactly. It's mind-boggling. It's so frustrating. These people are our enemies until they turn around and recognize that the momentum is on the left flank, that people are demanding more dynamism. People are demanding policies that actually help them. People want to beat the Republicans. People want to beat the Republicans. That's it. And this business as usual bullshit from the establishment Democrats does not beat the Republicans. It is actually the reason why we have Donald Trump again. Yeah, John Marco had a pretty solid approach to this. Said, I actually think it's a good thing to not preemptively swear you'll vote for Gavin Newsom before he is the candidate. Why are they on your ass now about this, even though you've been preaching you hate the Dems for the longest time? The reason why they're on my ass is because regardless of how much they yell about this shit, the Democratic Party still turns around and goes, Hasan, what do you have to say about this? What do you think about this? And that kills their brain. They're like, why are you listening to him? That's the whole point. The whole point here is to try to get this message that Hasan hates the Democrats. Hasan doesn't give a about the Democratic Party. Hasan is an opposition figure to the Democratic Party that wants the Republicans to win in front of as many Democratic Party consultants as possible, not realizing that half of them are in the chat right now. They don't understand it. They don't realize that, like, when I go to the DNC or when I'm actually working with the Democrats, half of the Democratic teams are staffed by these motherfuckers that are in my chat right now. They don't comprehend it. They don't understand. Like, why are the journalists talking to a Hamas supporter? That's what their worldview is so sheltered that they can't comprehend that people can have different perspectives on this stuff. And then they constantly find themselves tugging along after the fact. They constantly find themselves going, oh, wow, I guess people do really hate Israel. Oh, well, I guess I hate Israel too now. Oh, I guess people really love Zohran Mamdani. Oh, well, I love Zohran Mamdani too now. They don't want to be in the ground floor because they have no vision. They have no vision whatsoever for the future. That's why they're consistently wrong when it comes to domestic politics. Yeah, Epstein was saying Zohran was crazy until he was the candidate. They're fucking wrong all the time. Epstein also was saying Joe Biden shouldn't fucking drop out. Joe Biden is not going to drop out. He was wrong. Hutch, who is a dick writer of Sex Pestiny, was talking about how Kamala's going to win without the left over and over again. Also, if libs are already wanting to vote for him without a clear stance on subjects he walked back on his podcast, though some of the likes of Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk, then it allows him not to fight as hard for those things like trans rights, etc. Exactly. I hate the Republicans more than these people do. I want to defeat the Republicans. I want to imprison some of the Republicans that have actually caused all of this chaos, okay, and all of this instability. These people don't. It's that simple. I don't believe online political influencers have anyone else's interest at heart except their own. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. If that was the case, I would be moving very differently. If I had no investment in the things that I'm advocating for, I would either decide not to work with any Democrat whatsoever and just say, I am the most moral leftist of all time. This is a bourgeois electoral system. I will not be participating in it. If I did not have any investment in advancing the causes that I advocate for, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be in the trenches. I wouldn't be in the streets. I wouldn't be fundraising for these initiatives. I wouldn't be working with the existing sitting electeds right now to the best of my ability. I wouldn't be trying to get people elected into positions of power if that was the case. So no, this kind of wishy-washy outsider bullshit where people go, oh, like this guy simply only cares about himself is idiotic. I've been saying the same exact shit for the past 12 goddamn years. I've been doing the same exact shit for the past 12 goddamn years, and people still say, he's grifting. My positions haven't changed. Ironically enough, this is a rehashing of the 2016 era argumentation over and over again by people who I thought had woken up to the reality that Bernie would have been a far better alternative to Donald Trump anyway. Yeah, this video you made is 8 years old in 2 days. ISIS Gestapo wasn't popular then. Now it's the average voter's opinion. And people still have the audacity to act as though this is from February 12th, 2018, 8 years ago. And people still have the audacity to make it seem like I have positions that aren't consistent. As the contradictions worsen, people start recognizing that the same old business as usual establishment Democrat politics is not actually working. Yeah, there's this as well. Actual trans person here. Gavin Newsom made a comment about trans athletes that I don't agree with, but California is still one of the best places for trans to be trans in the country. See the difference? You don't care about what happens to us, so stop acting like you speak for us. I'm not. If you want the same business as usual politics from the Democrats who will then sell you out immediately after the election is over, go ahead. Go right ahead. Have fun with that, okay? Have fun with that. I'm going to keep advocating for trans people. I don't give a shit what you, as an individual trans liberal, has to say. Sick of people like this using my community to empower MAGA politicians. Yes, that's what I'm doing. I love MAGA. You were a Zionist who made excuses for the Gaza genocide every day under the Biden admin. I'm not, and I didn't, but sure, man, whatever you need to do about to tell yourself I'm ontologically evil. I still would pick him over JD Vance. That was the actual question here, not that he's the perfect warrior for trans liberation. Oh, God. It's so ridiculous. It's so infuriating, okay? It's so infuriating. This identity shield also doesn't matter, okay? It doesn't matter. Democrats don't give a about you. You're yelling at one of the few people that does give a about trans people in general, okay? That's all you're doing. Democrats don't give a about you. They would literally shoot you in the head if it meant that they would be able to secure additional electoral wins. It's ridiculous. What's the first thing that the Democrats did in the aftermath before the autopsy was conducted, in the aftermath of the loss to Donald Trump? What's the first thing that they did? They went to television and we're like, you know why we lost? Because of these trans people. That's why we lost. That's literally the first thing that they did. And you're over here still being like, no, they care about me. They care about me. No, they don't. They don't. Part of my advocacy around this, for the record, is that if you run a front-facing campaign that focuses on material issues like universality around the expansion of existing social safety nets like Medicare for all, free college, shit like that, then Republicans have to focus on that stuff and position themselves against that stuff. And then they're too busy yelling about that shit, so they don't talk about trans people. Because trans people, whether we like it or not, are a tiny sliver of the population. Most people don't know anything about trans people, and they think trans people are weird, okay? That's it. Any conversation that we're having about trans people over and over again is going to always lead to a culture war defeat. So in order to protect trans people, you have to just say, look, I love trans people. I don't think we should be attacking trans people. They're our neighbors. They're wonderful people. Why the do you care? You're being weird. This is like 0.1% of the population. Who gives a shit? Shut the up. Any conversation that you have beyond that is going to be a loss. And you know who did this perfectly? Zoran Kwame Mamdani. He was uncompromising in his pro-trans position, and yet that never got brought up in the conversation. Now, you might say, oh, it's because it's the New York Democratic primary. Sure, but he went on Fox News. Why did Fox News not bring that up? Because they were too busy talking about fast and free buses. It's that simple. When you have something that people need to vote for, the other people that are attacking you have to attack that. They have to position themselves as being against that. Or better yet, they have to concede. They have to say, you know what? As a Republican, I want fast and free buses too, right? And then what happens? That makes that position the position. That makes that policy platform the only policy platform. This is how you win. Here is the problem. When people say stuff like, oh, I want no harm to the American ruling class, my enemy is the American people. I get why people say that, but you have to understand, many of these voters, all the way from diehard blue no matter who voters, all the way to even diehard MAGA voters, they're disillusioned, and in many instances they're scared or they're angry, and they have no appropriate vector for that anger and hatred. The Republicans take that anger and that animosity and channel it in the direction of voting for MAGA and MAGA policies that end up actually worsening the material harm that they're experiencing. And the Democrats say, no, just vote for our guy and shut the fuck up, because otherwise things will get worse. And while there is truth to that, because harm reduction in theory is correct, it is the correct position, right? Like Gavin Newsom will be marginally better than whichever the Republican candidate actually is. There's no world where I will ever advocate for a Republican, right? But Democrats know that that theory is correct, and they dupe people into getting on board with whoever their establishment candidate looks like, whatever that establishment candidate looks like. This is a major problem, because not only is this, while the harm reduction shit is theoretically true, it doesn't work in elections. It doesn't work in elections at all. People don't vote for the harm reduction candidate. They don't vote on harm reduction narratives. I am an outsider. I am not bought. I'm not paid for. I will never do a loyalty pledge to the Democratic Party, and I will not get paid by the likes of Chorus or anyone really to do any sort of propaganda for establishment Democrats. And because I am unbought, and because I can't be bought, and that's partially because of you, by the way, the viewers, the Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the viewers, for you, the viewers. But because of that reason, they see people like myself as a real threat. Because at the end of the day, the consultant class gets paid by telling the Democratic electeds what they want to hear. You're doing great. Keep getting lobbyist money. Keep offering no real alternatives, no real solutions. People will not be mad. Put Gavin Newsom in charge. He's going to fix the problem. Like, this is what they're rehashing over and over again to an audience that is experiencing tremendous discontent, not only with the MAGA movement, obviously, understandably, but also with the Democrats as well. They don't want to address why people are frustrated with the Democrats. By the way, Gavin Newsom will talk to Ben Shapiro, will talk to Charlie Kirk, will talk to anyone and everyone before he will talk to one of his constituents who has voted for him, by the way. Yeah, by the way, I never told people not to vote for Kamala Harris. Ironically enough, Hutch did. Don't vote for her. You are not necessarily this coalition, and we will do it. We will get it done without you again. You expecting us to do? Beg, lol. So does that mean you'll be quiet if she loses? You're not going to come out of the woodwork to blame us for her loss, right? I never told people not to vote for Kamala Harris. I never told people not to vote for Kamala Harris. I told people not to vote for Donald Trump. I just said I'm not going to endorse Kamala Harris unless she takes a strong position on the genocide that was unfolding, which would have been good politics and good policy and the moral thing to do. And according to a straw poll that we conducted on election night, 80% of the community voted for Kamala Harris. I even said Jill Stein is a fraud, which I still maintain. That is a position that I believe as well. Apparently, Hutch told people not to vote for Kamala Harris and was flexing about how Kamala Harris was going to win regardless. Interesting. The counterpoint is that people say you discourage people not to be saying she wouldn't be better than Donald Trump, and that hurt their feelings, except I did say that Kamala Harris's positions on Gaza would be identical to Donald Trump's, but on other issues, especially issues that pertain to domestic politics, I do think that Kamala Harris would be marginally better than the Trump administration. The problem is she wasn't communicating that. That was my criticism. My criticism was if Kamala Harris is antagonistic to Donald Trump's positions on immigration, she should say so. She shouldn't try to lean into the right-wing reactionary perspective. That was my argument. Don't say marginally better. You've seen what the Trump admin has done. No, marginal differences between candidates actually have disastrous consequences. Marginal differences between candidacies have disastrous outcomes for the average person. This is true. For example, Barack Obama is marginally better than the Republicans on healthcare. That is a disastrous difference between the Republican healthcare engineering and the Democratic Party's position. Why is it marginal? Because the true opposition to the right-wing healthcare structure is socialized medicine. Okay? It's Medicare for all. Both Barack Obama's plan and the Republican plan is still maintaining a private healthcare system. There is a consolidation. There is a concession there. You have to recognize that, which is precisely the reason why this is a marginal difference. That doesn't mean that marginal difference is not majorly consequential. This is the part of the problem with nuance. Both parties at the national level believe that healthcare should be private. There are some Democrats who don't, but for the most part, the Democratic Party overall thinks healthcare should remain a private endeavor. I do not believe that. And I don't think you believe that either. And that's precisely the reason why, when I say marginal differences, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is something that even Ari herself understands and believes when she's talking about trans people, right? She understands that Gavin Newsom is better than Republicans, albeit marginally better than Republicans, because the true opposition to the Republican agenda would be one that says, we're not doing this to trans people at all. No way, no how. We're not conceding on eradicating trans people from certain public spaces just to satiate the appetite for death and destruction of the most reactionary 10% of American voters. That's the real opposition. And if you're trans, you know that already. The marginal opposition is being dramatically better on trans people in general, but marginally opposing the Republican position by conceding on certain issues. There is consensus politics in this country, and we need to understand that. If the overall conversation is like, do we segregate trans people? Do we section them off into like a totally separate reality versus we should kill all trans people? Yes, cordoning them off and segregating them rather than directly killing them is the better position. It is, but that shouldn't be the only two positions being demonstrated here. That's simply my argument.
How can we meaningfully participate in a political environment?
Yeah, this was when I was at the USC, far before the election, talking about the Democrats pivoting to the right and how devastating that is, pivoting to the right on immigration and how devastating that is.
When we feel like a party like the Democrats are tacking, almost to like where Reagan was in the 80s. Like, what should young people
worse
do?
than Reagan on immigration. I mean, at least he gave amnesty, you know, which is crazy to say. I mean, I'm not saying that. Fuck Reagan.
Yeah.
It is quite informative to watch the Reagan-George H.W. Bush debate on specifically immigration, though, from that election cycle. Honestly, it's like shocking.
Flashback.
We're doing two things. We're creating a whole society of
really honorable, decent, family-loving people that are in violation of the law, and secondly, we're exacerbating relations with Mexico. These are good people, strong people. Part of my family is a Mexican.
Rather than making them or talking about putting up a fence, why don't we work out some recognition of our mutual problems, make it possible for them to come here legally with a work permit, and then while they're working and earning here, they pay taxes here.
End of flashback.
That is where we've gotten in terms of like how far right we have ratcheted on so many issues. And I think that the Democratic Party is definitely responsible for that, because like they are supposed to be the expected counterbalance to growing fascism in this country.
That's it. Go ahead, man. Tell me I'm wrong. People say the Democratic Party went too far left. It's like, bitch, the Republican Party was the pro-amnesty party. You mean? I'm not saying I won't vote for any Democrat. I'm not even saying I won't vote for Gavin Newsom at all. But as it stands currently, the way he's presented himself, he's done nothing to earn not only my vote, but the votes of millions of Americans.